This is The Wire for 2300 Zulu, November 11th, 2025. Precedence is routine. Information cutoff is 2200. Bottom line up front. VBIED attack strikes Islamabad. 12 fatalities reported. Riots break out at UC Berkeley at student event. White House announces economic initiatives. Solar flares prompt space weather watches for the next few days. Beginning with international events. Around the world, several coronal mass ejections from the sun were reported yesterday, which are expected to result in the observance of aurora at lower latitudes than normal tonight and possibly the next few days. The National Weather Service issued a G4 severe geomagnetic storm watch this morning, which is valid for this evening into tomorrow. Analysts comment. This is nothing to freak out over, but still something to keep in mind just in case power outages strike some areas. Interference with radio communications should also be expected as well, particularly shortwave frequencies. When solar weather is more active, as it is right now, weird things tend to happen, which are nearly impossible to predict. In practical terms, this usually means that people living at lower latitudes can see the northern lights, but what people can't usually see is the interference, fluctuations, and anomalies that this kind of thing causes with anything that relies on electricity to function. These CMEs are a bit bigger than normal, and at least one is directed at Earth, meaning that it's more likely to be impactful than usual, as the solar energy will hit our atmosphere more directly, so communications and electrical infrastructure may be damaged later tonight. Thursday night should be the worst, but the space weather forecast is still rather variable at the moment. In Pakistan, following yesterday's explosion in India, a vehicle-borne IED was detonated outside a court in Islamabad. 9 to 12 people were killed and dozens wounded during the attack. Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistan, otherwise known as TTP, or the main Taliban faction operating within Pakistan, claimed responsibility for this attack. Analysts comment. Immediately following this explosion, which is the worst Islamabad has experienced in many years, locals reported Pakistan starting to move military resources toward the border with India. Right now it's hard to say what's going on, but two deadly explosions detonating in the heart of two nations that are constantly at each other's throats is probably going to result in tensions escalating a bit once again. On the home front, in California, a general state of unrest broke out at UC Berkeley last night following a series of Turning Point USA events at the university. Antifa militants clashed with police, prevented other students from attending the TPUSA event, and otherwise caused much disturbance. Analysts comment. Going into the heart of the beast of Berkeley with a Charlie Kirk event no less was always going to result in this level of kinetic activity, so it is a miracle nobody was killed. Berkeley may be infamous for many things, but it's also a legendary Antifa stronghold where militants dominate the terrain in significant numbers. Flyers advertising this riot were spread weeks ago, which signifies the level of planning present for something that seems as simple as a counter-protest or riot. In Washington, D.C., several developments on the economic front have been announced over the past few days. The White House has announced efforts to normalize 50-year mortgages, while Fannie Mae has announced plans to remove their minimum credit score required to obtain a home loan, instead using their own risk assessment criteria to evaluate each loan independently of a minimum credit score. In a media interview with Fox, President Trump also reiterated plans to bring 600,000 Chinese students into the United States, confirming again the plans to double the number of Chinese students allowed into the United States. Analyst comments for this wire. It has been a bit of a rough week for the White House. There's no escaping that reality. This has not been made much better by the conflicting details that have emerged regarding another wave of stimulus checks. President Trump stated that $2,000 stimulus checks will be sent out to every taxpayer, the funding of which will come from the proceeds generated from the implementation of tariffs. However, statements from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent indicate the exact opposite, and that this stimulus check may take the form of a tax rebate or something that doesn't involve a direct payment to citizens. Bessent specifically mentioned that this may take the form of the No Tax on Tips initiative, as in Americans might not get an actual check, but rather the assurance that $2,000 worth of tips won't be taxed. At the moment, it's not possible to determine what the truth actually is, so more clarification is expected in due time. There are rumors of internal disputes arising from all of these economic decisions as of late, so there may be some backtracking in one way or another. For now, though, it's not really clear as to what clarifications or outright reversals may come about, if any. This concludes The Wire for 2300 Zulu, November 11th, 2025.